I love eating healthy food and feeling full. But you know what I don't love? Cleaning up 1 million dishes in a dirty kitchen and spending hours in there cooking meals. And as someone who's not very good at it, I'm very thankful to know that I can lose over 40 pounds naturally in a healthy way, I might add, in the season of life that some would call the most difficult, which is motherhood. You have even less time than usual. And if that sounds familiar, if that sounds like you, then today's video is for you because we're going to talk all about high protein meals that are low to no effort with zero dishes and zero cooking required. Okay, maybe not zero dishes, but dishes you can throw in the dishwasher. Okay. All right. So if you're ready, let's get started. The recipes from today come from the internet, which I'm very thankful for. But the first one is all me. So I do like protein powder, and my go-to breakfast right now is very much high protein, high volume. I took my notes. Oh, hi, Bella. I took my notes to make sure I got the macros right for you. But this breakfast is going to run you at 226 calories with 40 grams of protein. So for this recipe, I like to use the Dannon Light and Fit yogurt. By the way, none of this is sponsored by any of these companies. I just want to be clear. The Dannon Light and Fit yogurt, that's just my personal preference. It's the lowest calorie with the highest protein that I found that I think actually tastes good. The other ones sometimes just taste kind of gross in my opinion, but everybody's got their own preferences. So I do use the Dannon Light and Fit pretty regularly, and I combine that with a scoop of protein powder. I find that the Ghost protein powders mix really well with yogurts and things like that. I find I'm able to get a pretty smooth, creamy texture, which is really important to me and probably important to some of you guys too from a taste standpoint. So I've been currently using the coconut ice cream that I've been trying to use up from like 2 summers ago. Don't judge me. I didn't love it in protein shakes, but it goes really well in like a yogurt. So I've been using that, but you could really use whatever you wanted to as your base of whatever flavor that you like. I like a vanilla to go with the vanilla yogurt, but sometimes I'll use peanut butter, sometimes I'll use chocolate. It really just depends on what I'm in the mood for and also what I have on hand. And then I will combine that with a ton, and I mean a ton of blueberries. And the nice thing about blueberries is the volume of food that you get for what you get. So I'm just blending the blueberries in with the Greek yogurt and the protein powder. I typically blend the yogurt and protein powder first, and then I put the blueberries on top. But I put a ton of them, and they're just great because they have a lot of water content. And honestly, what's carrying the protein in this is going to be the protein powder, but it's just my personal preference. So that's my like go-to breakfast, honestly, most days of the week, and it keeps me full for a significant amount of time. And sometimes I'll add an additional piece of fruit, or I might add another carbohydrate like some sort of cereal. I find that if I add a cereal, I have to choose a little more wisely about which cereal I'm going to use to stay full. So I try to pick a higher fiber cereal when possible. Hey guys, if you're finding this video useful or helpful in some way, would you do me a huge favor and give this video a thumbs up? It lets YouTube know it's useful and helpful in some way, so it'll share it out to others of us who have goals and busy lives. Next up, lunch. This one I stole from Instagram, and I will be showing you her video of her doing this because it's way cuter than my kitchen. But this is a cottage cheese pizza bowl. I did tweak it just a smidge based on what she's telling you, so I'll give you my directions as well. But I prefer the Good Culture cottage cheese. I've tried a bunch of different cottage cheeses, and the Good Culture has just been what's tasted the best to me. But you can really use whatever cottage cheese that you like. I was looking and noticing that there's not a significant protein difference in like a Good Culture versus some of the other store brands. So whatever is in your budget will do the trick. But I prefer the 2% Good Culture cottage cheese. And for me, when I'm eating it for lunch, I use a cup of cottage cheese. But depending on how much protein you are trying to get in your meal, you could use however many cups you wanted. Like just because I use a cup and just because I use a serving doesn't mean you can't use more than a cup and more than a serving, depending on what your calorie budget is and what your protein, target is. So for me, this lunch has 270 calories and 39 grams of protein. So I mix in a pizza sauce or marinara. Again, I haven't found that the macros are significantly different on those. So it's really just a personal preference of if you want to use pizza sauce or marinara, they pretty much taste the same. And I mix that in with the cottage cheese, and then I heat pepperoni. So I don't have an air fryer. I use the microwave, and I heat the pepperoni in the microwave to make them crispy, and I put them that way for about 2 minutes. My husband said that's too crispy, so you may want less time on yours. And I heat my cottage cheese and pizza sauce up for a minute and 30 seconds. So I combine all of that together and it really truly tastes so good and it's so easy to make. I think when I tasted it originally, I was like, what does this remind me of? And my husband told me, he's like, it's the stuff when you make a lasagna and like the stuff after you've eaten all the noodles. That's what it tastes like. So if you don't like cottage cheese, this really does change the texture of the cottage cheese. The one thing to note is that I feel like depending on which cottage cheese you pick, the lower percentage are a little soupier, but the sauce does help to thicken it up a little bit. But it is a little bit soupier than you would expect it to be. And so you may want to add a little more pasta sauce to counteract that. But it's a great meal option for you. Super delicious and just very, very fast. For dinner, we really like a protein taco pasta. Again, this one was stolen. This one was stolen from my sister-in-law. She found the recipe on TikTok. Again, I'll link all of this information for you. And this is a great little combination of proteins. So it's a protein pasta, but it also uses lean ground beef. And this is just one of our favorite staple recipes. This is one of the few recipes that we do like pre-prepare. We're not really meal preppers around here. I don't like to be a meal prepper, but this one's going to run you 575 calories and 50 grams of protein. And this is very easy to meal prep in the sense that like you really just put it in a pot and you mix all the ingredients together to the point that I'll be honest, I don't make this recipe. This is my husband and my 5-year-old like to make this together. They're very cute little like chefs in the kitchen together. And the hardest step of this is to brown the ground beef. So if you can brown ground beef, then you can do the rest of this because the rest of it really is just throwing in a pot. So for us, we typically will double the recipe and that way we have it for multiple meals and we just pop it in the microwave to reheat it. It's really tasty, y'all. If you have not tried the protein taco pasta, it is ridiculously good. If you use a spicier Rotel, though, it is going to be spicier. So you might want some sour cream on hand to cool it down, but that'll give you a little extra protein. Again, that's 575 calories for 50 grams of protein per serving. And then I just want to give like a little honorable mention to a little dessert. Now, this dessert is not like quote unquote healthy. It's just really tasty. And this one comes from Mac Daddy on Instagram. He made these like Oreo Belvita things that I thought were really good. I tweaked it a little bit. And what I ultimately ended up doing to his recipe is using 1 full scoop of protein powder. And I used the Nutter Butter from Ghost. That's my favorite protein powder of all time. Yeah, absolutely. Hands down, my favorite. If you haven't tried it, don't tell me you don't like Nutter Butter. Try it. Don't knock it till you try it. I promise. I promise. Just trust me on this one. But I use a full scoop of protein powder with the whip, and I liked the consistency of that filling a little bit better. I eliminated the Oreos from the filling, and then I actually used the Oreos as the outer layer instead to try that. We liked that, but we liked the Belvita better. So I used the whip that I made instead, eliminated the Oreos, and just used the Belvita. So it's more of like a peanut butter chocolate. I'm not telling you this is a low calorie food because it's absolutely not a low calorie food. But if you're one of those people who's like trying to eat like random protein snacks, and of course I didn't write down the macros because I'm an idiot. I'll put them on the screen. But this is not a healthy like snack. This is just like, hey, I'd like a little protein in my snack to keep me a little full for a little bit longer. It's okay just to eat the Oreo cookie. Like it really for real is. But if you're somebody who's looking to add some protein in a little tasty treat, keep you full maybe a little longer, this is a nice one. So I want to give that one like an honorable mention. We don't eat that all the time, but I did really enjoy it. So I wanted to kind of give it a shout out. So if you've loved this video and found it helpful, please make sure to subscribe and let me come be your non-judgy mom friend who comes alongside you to help you reach your goals. Bye, friends.